As coaches, I believe that we are part of one of the most powerful help professions in the world. And as Christian coaches, when you add the Holy Spirit to that equation, there's no way to quantify what can happen in a coaching session for a client. My name is Cheryl Scanlon, and I've been a coach for 20 years, and I have 15,000 hours as a professional coach. And I apologize for that sun, but I really wanted you to see the Tennessee sky and the Boone River as I talk with you this morning. This is coming to you live from my heart with no ChatGPT support. That's my disclaimer. When you became a coach, you became a student. You learned, you studied, you read books, you sat in classrooms, you were part of peer groups. And then you go out into that world and you try to find clients. And because you're having a hard time finding clients, you go back to the books and you learn and you study and you listen to podcasts. My friends, there is a better way for you to bring the most powerful helps profession to other people. The key is it's going to require you to shift from being a learner in a classroom to being an experimenter in a laboratory. You see, because the books and the classroom and the curriculums are not going to teach you what the client is going to teach you. And so we have to enter this brave space where we're willing to experiment and try things. And we will still be learning, but we will be learning in the context of a relationship rather than in the context of a classroom. Our client has so much to teach us, so much. We have to be willing to improv. We have to be willing to be flexible on our feet. We have to be willing to take these tools that we've been learning and say to ourselves, how is this going to help this client now? And we have to be willing to literally apologize to our clients. When I started my practice, I think my first year I made about $1,500. And I wanted to hire a mentor coach. And in those days, it cost about $150 for 1 hour with a mentor coach. That was a lot of money 20 years ago. And that's a lot of money for someone who doesn't have anything coming out of their practice. And I'd made a commitment to myself that I was not going to spend more than I made. So I had to go really slow with my mentor coach. But over time, as I started making more money, my next year I made $6,000 and so on. I started pouring more money into that mentor coaching investment. And the big thing that Tracy, who was my mentor coach, told me, she's like, who's the client? Who's the client? And I had to keep reminding myself, I'm not the client, because I was doing two things all the time in my sessions. Number one, I was becoming positional, meaning that I kind of had a sense of what I thought the client wanted, and I started coaching from what I thought the client wanted. Or I became authoritative, which was as I was hearing what the client was saying, I thought I knew what the client needed. And I would begin to coach from what I thought the client needed. Oh my goodness. And so many times I would have to call my clients afterwards and I would need to apologize. Why? Because I was in a laboratory and I was learning as I was coaching. That's the laboratory. That is the experimental piece of coaching, which so often prevents us from really developing as coaches. And then, of course, the result of that is our clients, our future clients, miss out on the most powerful relationship that could help them to do what? To help them to make better decisions, to accelerate their movement from that point A to point B, to feel more confident in themselves, to have clarity about what they even really need to be working on. So why am I meeting with you today? It's because we have created a platform by which you get to practice those things. You get to learn how to have this experimental mindset. You get to understand and play in this laboratory of learning through role play and trying new tools. We have so many tools available to you, but the tools don't matter. What matters is recognizing the opportunity to use the tool, playing with the tool with the client, and then seeing how the client responds to that tool. And so this platform is called Coach's Edge. And after 15,000 hours and 20 years in the practice, I'm really entering in, this is the sunrise. For some of you, it's sunrise time for you. But for me, I'm kind of in the sunset years of my practice. At one point I had 62 clients and I worked 70 hours a week, and it was crazy, but it was great because it helped us to provide for our family. It helped me to get really honed in my skills. And now we have a membership where it costs half, literally half of what I would have to pay for one mentor coaching session with Tracy. And in that process, you will get access to over 200 events that are already recorded, that are available to you, as well as a monthly live event with a beautiful community of fellow believers who recognize that they are a follower of Christ first, and they are a coach second, and they are learning what it means to bring all of themselves into a partnership with someone else who's trying to move forward in their life and live differently for themselves, for their families, for their businesses, for their communities. There's one other thing that's coming to my mind as I wrap up this little video for you, and that is you work hard to find those clients, but oftentimes they don't stick. And the reason is because you're not experimenting. They get into such a predictable relationship with you. Why would they want to pay for that? If your relationships with your clients are lasting less than 2 years, that creates another great opportunity to join a community like Coach's Edge so that you can start to build a repertoire of approaches to conversations, of language that will bring greater vitality and more dimension to your relationships with your clients. We're very excited about what we're offering to coaches, and we've done a really lousy job of communicating both our passion for this, the quality of what we're offering to you, and really the outcomes. So I'll close with this story. More than a dozen of our members have had to go through sort of an interview process where they were one of 2 or 3 other coaches that were being considered for a coaching engagement. And in all cases, coaches who were members of Coach's Edge wound up being selected for those engagements. And I hope that I can leave this conversation with you by asking you why. Why were Coach's Edge coaches selected over other coaches? And I can share with you this, because we are training you to have a real partnership with the person across the table with you. And that's why I didn't want a script. That's why I didn't want ChatGPT for this. I wanted to give you my heart, because this is what I'm going to invite you to bring to your conversations. The only difference between a good conversation and a poor conversation in coaching is the level, the degree of partnership that is happening between the coach and the client. And I'd love to be able to partner with you so that you can elevate that partnership, elevate that experience. For what? For several reasons. Number one, mostly for their sake, for what they're going to get out of this. Secondly, for longevity of relationship for the two of you. And then third, for you to know that Holy Spirit and you partnered. So there are many, many benefits for joining Coach's Edge. The sun is getting hot. I'm going to wrap up this conversation with you here. Are you ready to take your coaching to a whole nother level on behalf of your client and on behalf of yourself? You've worked hard to get to this point. Maybe it's really not about working harder and learning more. Maybe it's really about stepping into that laboratory and beginning to experiment. What does that mean? What does that look like? Coach's Edge can help you figure that out.